Greetings, my companions. I've got an engaging tale to share with you today. Care to join me? Our closeness disappeared suddenly. No disagreements, just explanations left unsaid. After each workout, she mentioned her body was too sore for physical contact. Later, she asked me to remove my wedding ring upon entering her gym. 3 months prior, my wife had signed a contract with an expensive gym downtown and hired a personal trainer named Josh. She showed me the confirmation email, pointed at the monthly cost on the screen, and said it was worth it. That very night, she prepared a new gym bag and left promptly at 7 p.m. Upon her return around 10 p.m., shoes off by the door, bag on the floor, she headed straight to the shower. When I approached later and touched her shoulder, she moved away and said she was still recovering from her training sessions. The following night saw a repeat of the same events. A few days later, this pattern continued with no arguments or conversations, just a growing distance and the same reason given. By the second month, the routine had been established. 6 days a week, 7 in the evening, 10 at night. Her exercise attire had replaced the old ones, with unfamiliar brand labels appearing in her wardrobe. A novel perfume emerged on the dresser. Her phone remained face down until it illuminated. Upon lighting up, she quickly checked it and locked it immediately. One evening, as she was securing her sneakers, I mentioned I wished to try her gym. I did so casually, reaching for my coat. She paused from tying the laces and looked at my hand. She stated I couldn't wear my wedding ring there. She spoke plainly and decisively. She explained that solo married men working out made others uncomfortable and trainers gossiped. She suggested it would be better if no one misinterpreted our relationship. Subsequently, she picked up her bag and announced she was running late. Following her departure, I removed my ring in the bathroom and left it on the counter. Upon her return that night, she bypassed the ring, picked up her phone, smiled at its screen, and went to bed without engaging me intimately. The gym transformed from a physical location into a dominating household timetable. Every evening, she departed at consistent hours, her keys already grasped mid-sentence. Inquiries about the duration of her absence were met with brisk responses. If I inquired about her daily routine, she'd dismissively shrug and call it intense. Regular deliveries materialized twice a week. Upon arrival, she'd tear into the packages by the door, revealing fresh workout gear that she arranged neatly on the couch, almost like uniforms. New colors, styles she hadn't worn before adorned these outfits. The tags remained intact until gym night. The old clothes were pushed to the back of the closet. One evening, I spotted a new scent on the dresser, not the one she had used for years. This fragrance lingered longer in the air. She applied it before leaving, scrutinized her reflection in the mirror, and wiped a smudge from her lip with her thumb. When I reached out to embrace her waist, she moved aside and stated that she didn't want the scent of sweat on her before training. Her phone seemed as if it were an extension of her hand. It buzzed constantly during meals, while lacing shoes, and even while waiting for elevators. She gave more smiles to the screen than to me. Whenever I tried to get nearer, the phone would flip over or slip into her bag. One late night, I saw the phone's light shining beneath the bedroom door, only to be extinguished when my footsteps halted. She stopped inviting me on trips, no errands, no late dinners, no weekend plans unless they suited her gym schedule. Upon returning home around 10, she rushed straight to the shower, then to bed, already turned away. If I touched her shoulder, she moved slightly and repeated an explanation about her muscles as a substitute for any deeper conversation. By week's end, she left on a Friday evening without bidding farewell. I observed her tail lights fade away, noting that she had taken the new perfume with her. On Friday evening, I drove past her gym without informing her. I did not park, I did not enter. At the road's red light, I peered through the shop window as any curious person would. She stood near the weights, close to her trainer. Josh donned a snug black gym shirt displaying the emblem, and there was a noticeable lack of distance between them. They were positioned such that they obscured the mirrors and everyone else nearby. She chuckled at his remark, neglecting to withdraw when he leaned closer to reply. He murmured something near her ear, close enough for her to tilt her head to listen. For an extended period, she remained stationary. Her hands rested on her hips, shoulders loose, her entire body facing him. The silence extended beyond the usual rest interval. Neither were distracted by phones, towels, or haste to move. A passerby strolled past them unnoticed. I observed as Josh spoke again, noticed her nod slowly, as if assenting to an unspoken understanding. He straightened up and smiled. She reciprocated with a similar smile as she did on her phone prior to locking it. I didn't sound my horn, didn't send a text, didn't gesture through the window. The light switched to green. I proceeded, opting for a longer route home, and parked in the driveway with the engine still humming. Around 10, she arrived, setting her bag by the door before heading straight for the shower. In the living room, I heard the water begin without her summoning me. The following morning, I purchased a gym membership online, identical to hers. I filled out my name, email, and paused when asked about marital status. I skipped it and completed the payment. On Monday evening, I went solo to that gym. I left the ring untouched at home, resting in its usual spot on the bathroom counter. Inside, they scanned my code and let me pass as if I were a regular member. I switched outfits, stepped onto the floor, and noticed her near the treadmills. She recognized me before I reached her. Her countenance paled swiftly, as if all color had been extracted. She disembarked from the apparatus, dried her hands on a cloth, and strode directly towards me without smiling or inquiring about my presence. Instead, she inquired about my activities. I responded by stating that I had joined and decided to give it a try. Upon observing that my hand was not adorned with a ring, her lips tightened. She expressed her displeasure at the timing and demanded personal space. She asserted that the gym was her sanctuary and questioned why I couldn't show respect for that. I nodded in agreement and promised to keep to myself. She didn't linger for an argument. Instead, she returned to her exercise regimen, her shoulders rigid, her gaze fixed on the mirror rather than me. Later, she switched sides of the floor and lifted weights I hadn't used in years, focusing on her reflection instead of the clock. The following evening, I reappeared at the same hour. Upon seeing me once more, she made no attempt to engage. Instead, she kept her distance. She slowed her stride, examined her cell phone, and frequently cast furtive glances at the free weights, as though anticipating someone else to acknowledge my presence before her. On a Wednesday evening, I entered concurrently again. She was already present, stretching by the machines, her hair pulled back tightly. I surveyed the floor. Josh was on the opposite side of the gym, engaged with another client. He didn't once cast his gaze in her direction. It wasn't lost on her. During set breaks, she frequently looked over her shoulder, pretending to adjust her towel, pretending to inspect the mirror. Each time Josh walked by accompanied by someone else, her stance altered as if waiting for him to halt. He didn't. He remained engrossed in other people, his hands moving swiftly, his voice tranquil, his focus locked anywhere but on her. Her phone appeared multiple times. She inspected the screen briefly, typed hastily, then returned it to her pocket. Despite these efforts, nothing prompted him to look over. As I approached the free weights, he adjusted with another patron, turning his back towards me without pause. I remained in sight. I utilized equipment nearby. I paused between sets where she couldn't miss me. Whenever I passed by, she tensed and looked away, then glanced back at Josh once more, as if tackling two issues simultaneously. At a certain moment, she intentionally walked past him slowly, enough to attract attention. He made no attempt to stop her. He didn't call out her name. Not even a glance in her direction. She reached the water fountain, lingered longer than necessary, then resumed her position with a tightened jaw. I exchanged glances with Josh once. He looked at me, then at her, then back at me. His countenance didn't alter, but an impression of a decision taken earlier became apparent in his features. She concluded her workout early that evening. She departed without freshening up, bag on shoulder, phone glued to her ear as she exited. Josh continued training his client as if nothing transpired. On Thursday, I arrived 5 minutes ahead of my regular time. She was in the middle of her workout with headphones on, fixated on the mirror. I retrieved a water bottle from the refrigerator and walked towards her, placing it on the bench beside her. She paused momentarily. She removed one earpiece and seemed to consider causing a disturbance. I proposed going home together at a later time, making sure others could hear. A few individuals glanced our way. She nodded curtly, replaced the headphone, and turned away. From that point, I remained nearby. During her breaks, I stepped closer as if it were routine. I offered a towel when she wiped her brow. I inquired if she was nearly finished. I mentioned traffic would be heavy. Each time she responded without contest to avoid drawing more attention. Across the room, Josh observed. He momentarily paused his training with another client and monitored us via the mirror. His jaw clenched as I whispered close to her ear. When I momentarily touched the back of the bench next to her, he averted his gaze entirely. Her eyes kept wandering towards him, only to land on the back of his head each time. He moved his client further away, obscuring her view, and lingered longer than required. Upon finishing, I swiftly took hold of her bag before she could. I inquired if she was prepared. She nodded again, lips pressed tight, and followed me towards the exit. Josh made no attempt to hinder us. He didn't call out her name or lift his gaze. That evening at home, she bathed in quiet solitude and retired to bed immediately. Her phone buzzed once on the nightstand. She turned it face down without glancing at it and turned away from me. From then on, I visited daily, always at the same hour, adhering to the same ritual. Upon entering, I strode in with assurance, acknowledged the receptionist, and made a beeline for where she trained. She observed me each time promptly. She immediately tensed upon spotting me. I continued playing my part, offering water before she could ask for it myself, casually inquiring about the workout while we were within earshot of others, reminding her of our impending departure. Each instance, she either gritted her teeth to respond or nodded without making eye contact. She couldn't dismiss me openly without attracting unwanted attention, and she was aware of it. Josh kept a distance. He worked with other clients in close proximity but maintained a safe distance from her. When she approached his vicinity, he subtly adjusted his position. Each time she attempted to catch his eye, he busied himself with his clipboard or turned away. Once she purposely slowed down as if waiting for him to approach, but he didn't. I continued my conversation with someone else while she lingered. She frequently checked her phone, typed messages, waited, and rechecked. The expected response never arrived. Her actions became less rhythmic. She resumed her sets again. Mid-lift, she paused, gazing at the mirror as if not recognizing her reflection. Toward the end of the week, she attempted to speak with Josh when he was switching clients. Stepping toward him, she whispered something. He responded without pause, his tone monotone, eyes already averted. She took 2 steps after him, uttered something more, and he signaled towards the front desk, resuming his walk. I remained nearby throughout this interaction. When her session ended that night, she didn't wait for me. Instead, she swiftly grabbed her bag and exited, her shoulders hunched, phone clutched tightly in her hand. Josh never looked up once. The gym was bustling on Friday evening, with post-work clients occupying the floor, music echoing loudly, and mirrors filled with varied reflections. As usual, I arrived at the same time and stayed close enough for her to sense my presence without looking. She worked out quickly and carelessly, scarcely taking breaks between sets. Her gaze frequently trailed Josh as he worked with another client near the squat racks. When he completed his workout and headed towards the water station, she discarded her weights and trailed after him. She cornered him near an open area, keeping a distance that allowed those nearby to potentially overhear. She initiated the conversation, speaking softly initially, her hands expressing herself in a hurried manner. Josh maintained his distance, taking a small step back, and responded in a calm, businesslike tone. He informed her that he was occupied and suggested if she desired a session, she should arrange it via the app. The onlookers glanced over. A woman on a nearby machine paused mid-exercise. Someone behind them feigned stretching. My spouse attempted to persuade him again. Her voice escalated despite her attempts to keep it low. Josh didn't soften his tone. He repeated himself, louder this time, and indicated the reception desk as if he had dealt with such situations before. I approached from a distance and stood beside her. I inquired if everything was all right, keeping my tone casual and composed, as if it were an ordinary inquiry between companions. Josh looked at me, then at her, then back at me. He gave a single nod and admitted he wasn't aware she was with her partner. He stated this plainly, without remorse, as if resolving a misconception. She remained silent, her expression unchanging. Frozen, she stood there amidst those pretending not to gawk. Josh departed, returning to his client. I placed a hand on her arm and suggested we leave. Without uttering a word, she allowed me to guide her towards the exit. At home, she neglected to remove her shoes. She set down her bag by the entrance and immediately confronted me. Her voice was harsh and rapid. She accused me of ruining everything. She asserted I intentionally went to her gym and behaved as I did. She claimed I overstepped a boundary. I remained stationary and asserted I'd followed her instructions. I explained I visited the gym. I mentioned removing my ring. I admitted there was no need to check her phone or read anything to comprehend the situation. She let out a brief, fragile laugh, then fell silent. Her hands trembled. She walked by me, traversed the room, turned back, and informed me that I had humiliated her. Josh assumed we were a couple due to my actions. I told her he held that belief because she allowed it. She fell silent. She sat on the edge of the couch, gazing at the floor. Her phone vibrated in her grasp. This time she didn't look at it. Instead, she placed it down with its screen illuminating the room and moved it aside. Then she admitted it aloud. She said she intended to depart. She stated that it had been happening for 3 months. She said they conversed after workouts, then outside the gym, then more than that. She said she thought she'd have enough time to conclude things amicably. I ventured into the bedroom and returned with the ring box. I placed it on the table between us and opened it. She reached for it, but halted when she saw my expression. I closed the box and moved it toward myself. This was when she began crying. I rose, secured my jacket, and informed her that I would be absent for some time at our location. She chose not to accompany me to the door. After 2 months, I had shifted to a rented flat in another district. New walls, new parking spot, no synchronized routines. Upon returning, I deposited my keys on an empty table and maintained silence within. On one particular evening, while awaiting the elevator, I glanced at my phone without focus, scrolling aimlessly. A recognizable face halted my swipe. A common acquaintance had uploaded a picture from the same fitness center. My former spouse was visible in the reflection of mirrors, solo, executing a squat with her hair pulled back tightly. The caption discussed concentration and resuming the journey. I refrained from zooming in. I avoided perusing the comments. I locked the screen, held the device for a moment, and subsequently erased the application. The emblem vanished, leaving an unoccupied spot where it once stood. At home, I retrieved a compact box from the rear of a drawer. I uncapped it and extracted the wedding band. I grasped it, rotated it, and returned it to its confine. I pushed the container to the rear of the compartment, fully securing it. Silence reigned in the chamber. I switched off the luminary, retiring to my solitude, keeping the compartment shut.